in answering this question, I'm going to go with the presumption that your dentures fit fine and that isn't part of the problem. If your dentures don't fit well, then you want to talk to your dentist because you may need some adjustments or a reline. But if what you are dealing with is just, and it's really not just, but if your dentures fit fine and what you are dealing with is the sensation that there's just too much going on in your mouth when you take a bite of food and when you're trying to eat, then there are ways to get around that. When we first start on this journey, we have to relearn everything. You're used to cutting your food in certain sizes and taking a full forkful or a full spoonful when you take a bite. You have to change that early in this journey. You're going to have to cut your food into much smaller pieces. And instead of taking a full forkful or a full spoonful of food, you may want to take a half or even a third of a spoonful or a forkful just when you're starting out so that you're taking smaller bites. Eventually, you'll build up to a full forkful or a full spoonful and cutting your food the way that you were. But in the early part of this journey, you're going to have to change things just a little bit. When I eat, I do something that I call the split, divide, chew method. And I do it because I like to have my food on both sides. One, I'm evenly chewing my food, so I'm not wearing out one side of my dentures. And it also helps to keep my dentures from rocking. But when you're early in this journey, it also keeps you from having food on your tongue and your palate while you are also trying to chew. So you won't have that sensation that there's a whole lot of stuff going on because your food will be on both sides. So what you do when you take a bite, you use your tongue and you just kind of split your food so that it divides to both sides. And then you chew, split, divide, chew. Makes things much easier because you're not trying to chew while you have food on your tongue and in that whole space between your tongue and your palate. It's now on the sides. That makes it much easier. You are also going to have to teach your tongue how to judge if your food is chewed. Didn't have to really do that before because you knew how to eat because you've been eating since you were a very, very small infant, and everything kind of was just normal. Now you have prosthetic teeth, everything's covered, you have these bulky prosthetics in, and your brain is just confused. It doesn't know what the heck it's supposed to do. So your tongue is going to now have to judge if your food is chewed. And initially what you're going to do is you're going to take the food after you've chewed, you're going to set it on your tongue, and you're going to push it up to that palate part of your denture so that you can feel what the food feels like in that area. It'll give you that little bit that you need to know how the food feels on your tongue. Eventually, you won't have to do that. And you will be able to tell if your food is chewed just by having it setting on your tongue. But early in, you may have to utilize pushing it up to the palate just to kind of feel the weight and the way that it feels. There's so many things that change when you're trying to eat. At this point, and I know it might sound weird for somebody who's early in, I can feel the pressure of my food on my gums through my prosthetic teeth, and I can tell a lot of things about my food that way. I can tell the texture of the food. I can tell if it's chewed. I can't explain why I've reached that point. It's just habit at this point. My mind has adjusted, but initially, none of that is going to come to you. You're not going to feel the pressure of the food that here on your gums below, but I can feel the pressure of my food from my prosthetic teeth onto my gums. It's just time. It's been 17 years. But you just kind of have to relearn and you have to set goals. So maybe you are cutting your food. I have a lot of stuff. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, you're cutting your food into smaller pieces, and maybe you upgrade to slightly bigger pieces, and then you'll upgrade until eventually you're back to where you were before. And then the same goes with when you eat a sandwich. When you first start now, you're not going to take a normal bite of a sandwich. You may have to cut your sandwich into smaller pieces or even go with an open face sandwich and cut it to eat it. And then eventually you'll just have a normal sandwich, take normal bites, but that's going to take time. And it's going to just be a process of setting goals And if you set a goal and then you struggle with it, remember, don't feel defeated. Don't feel like you're failing. Just take a step back, take a deep breath, go back where you were yesterday. Keep practicing, keep trying. Congratulate yourself for trying because you're working on it. And then try again in a few days or maybe a week or a couple weeks, and then see how things progress then. But you just kind of want to change things just a little bit in the beginning and set goals and keep practicing. And that's really what the biggest thing is going to be, is practicing. If you're struggling with a certain food, just keep practicing. Keep trying until you master it, move on to something else. But the best way to get rid of that sensation that you're just got too much going on is to take smaller bites, cut your food up into smaller pieces. Don't try to eat a sandwich like you would normally before you got prosthetic teeth, and do the split divide chew. Put your food on both sides. Use your tongue to judge, and that should help. I hope that it helps. I'm not an expert when it comes to this. I can just share what worked for me and what I did to get through all of those things. So hopefully this helps. If you have any more questions, please ask, and I will do my best to answer them. And I'm going to go ahead and go, and I will talk to you later. Have a great one. Bye.